On today's show, I am once again joined by David Lee to discuss Kristaps Porzingis from how he looks in EuroBasket, what he might do for the Hawks this year, how they might use him, and more. And it's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2048 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Tuesday evening into Wednesday here in early September. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. Football season is closer than you think. And right now, if you're a new customer, you can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app right now to get started. I also want to encourage you at the top of the show, as I always do, to make Locked On Hawks your first listen each and every day. Check us out and subscribe to the show anywhere you find your podcasts. Apple, Spotify. We're also on YouTube on the video side, so please like this video as you're watching it. Leave a comment below. Tell your friends, and I appreciate you being here as always. If you missed it, I talked to David Lee on Monday mostly about Zachary Richer, but some about B. Krejci as well, a EuroBasket check-in with myself and David. I told you at that point in time I had more to come later on in the week with David Lee, and today is only part of that. In fact, we have two more installments. This one is actually going to be a little bit shorter than often on the podcast, kind of a bonus pod length, but about Porzingis for the most part, and how he's looked at EuroBasket, and also what it tells us about how the Hawks might use him, what David thinks about the signing in general, his impact on the offense, on the defense, play style, strengths, weaknesses, all that fun stuff, and kind of an overview on Porzingis and his impact, because it's honestly, spoiler alert, going to be pretty interesting to watch for the Hawks this season. And then also later on this week, I will be talking to David once again about Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, and even a little bit about N'Faly Dante and Caleb Houston as we look at kind of the new guys on the roster later on this week. Also, as one addendum, after yesterday's podcast discussing Richer, he played again at EuroBasket on Tuesday and actually had his worst game of the tournament so far. 15 minutes played for Richer in that game, missed all 4 of his shots, turned it over twice. Did have 3 assists, 4 rebounds in a win over Poland, but did not have his best game. Didn't play a lot in that of minutes in that game. Also, fellow second-year player Alex Sarr got injured for France. He's going to be out for the rest of the tournament, but France did qualify for the knockout round of the EuroBasket. So for the Hawks' perspective, that means that France will be playing at least 6 games in the tournament. So there was already a minimum of 5 in the group stage. But now France is going to be going on to the 16, and then we'll see beyond that. But there's no rule, I don't think, where Richer would just stop playing unless he gets banged up. So more to watch with Richer. Also on Porzingis, who we'll talk about on this podcast, he plays again on Wednesday. So listen to this podcast after that. Just know that we recorded it on Monday. So stay tuned for more coming up later on this week. Please subscribe to the podcast without any more delay. Here we go with myself and David Lee on Porzingis. All right, David, let's move on to some non-EuroBasket, even though Porzingis is playing basketball. So we'll talk about EuroBasket with Porzingis. But I want to ask you about the new guys. And we won't do as much on N'Faly Dante maybe as Porzingis or Alexander Walker. But, I'm doing this player capsule series like I do every summer with Glenn Willis, where we kind of dig into the guys who've been around. And we don't always do the new guys because it's like we haven't watched them as much. I try to get experts from other teams. I had somebody come on and talk about Porzingis, about Nickeil, etc. But it's a good time to check in on these guys. Mm-hmm. Fans are probably, football starting, I know, but September 1st is when we're talking. Camps in 4 weeks. And people that maybe check out for the summer, and I don't blame anybody for doing that. That's not a total sicko about the NBA. Like, oh, hey, let's see what's going on with the new guys. Dealer's choice. I'm going to ask you. Do you want to go with Porzingis first or Nickeil first? Your choice.
I'd probably say Porzingis.
Okay, so Porzingis is playing right now, which helps us in the algorithm and all the fun stuff, right? But Porzingis is playing very well. I think showing some real stuff, and we'll talk about EuroBasket too. But even beyond EuroBasket, like, what did you think? I actually want to go back with you. I haven't asked you this. It's been 2 months-ish since that happened. What did you make of this? Like, what was your reaction to the Hawks getting him? And I know from watching enough of your stuff and talking to you in person some, I'm sure your brain starts running. Like, how's this going to look? What was your initial reaction? And if it's changed at all over the last 2 months, what's that journey been like for you in looking forward to this?
No, I loved it. I thought for the price that they paid, getting off Terrence Mann's contract, which he was a fine player, but of course, like the long-term flexibility was limited with that. The fact that KB's playing for an additional extension, I think, is in the Hawks' favor. it is a buy low opportunity because he struggled so bad at the end of the regular season, and we never really got a conclusion to that. What I've seen in EuroBasket, I'm not concerned. He has said, like, I think he said it was like a sickness that he had to deal with, and it was rough for him, but I've seen no signs of it in EuroBasket. His conditioning has been up to par. He's currently 5th in the tournament in blocks. He's 18th or so in points, and that's when the people may not realize, because his numbers aren't bad. He went 0 for 14 from 3 in the first 2 games. Or first 3 games.
First
actually.
3 games,
yeah. He didn't make a 3 until today's game, and in today's game he then went 5 for 7. So like a lot of those misses it wasn't like short, it wasn't fatigue. He was just off, but it didn't matter because he was marching to the free throw line and he was eating on the glass and he was slipping in the space. But what I think Hawks fans should be really excited about, and something that I got more excited about the more I watched the film, more I watched him in EuroBasket, what he's doing as a passer is so interesting, and I think that will be the biggest thing the Hawks will probably lean to, besides the pick and pop ability and the 3-point shooting. But he's an awesome passer. He's way better than I ever remembered. And I think you'll see some natural synergy with him and Trey. I think Dyson will have some good synergy with him too, because Dyson's really good at going back door. You get that sort of consistency in terms of passing ability from your centers when it's one of Onyeka or KP or both of them on the floor. I think that's great. I just love that he gives the Hawks a lot of schematic versatility. I love that he gives them different looks they can throw at defenses, throw at different offenses on defense as well. I do think his mobility has looked good in EuroBasket. It isn't great. He's not the most fluid or fleet-footed, but at the end of the day, he's still 7'3", and so like he bothered a ton of shots against. At my point, he's averaging the 5th. He's number 5 in total or average blocks per game in EuroBasket. So he's an awesome offensive weapon. He did struggle against Turkey a bit. He does sometimes have some issues with physicality, but he's going to give the Hawks a curveball, and he's going to give the Hawks someone they can dump the ball into the post. He was I looked at those numbers pretty much as soon as we traded for him. He was one of the best self-creators in the league, just point-blank period, over the last 3 seasons. And most of it's post-up, but over the last 3 seasons, he's the 95th percentile in self-created field goal attempts, and he's shooting a plus 11.3 relative true shooting percentage, which means he's 11 points better efficiency-wise than league average on insane volume. And he's also a 97th percentile post scorer. It's pretty much just him, Embiid, and Jokic. Like, there's not many guys who can do what he can do with the passing, of course, the 3-point shooting. Like, there's a reason he's the unicorn. He's a little bit older. He's slowed down a little bit, I'd say. But I think we see closer to Washington KP than we saw Boston or Dallas KP for Atlanta.
Yeah, no, there's so much to get into. And look, so I was going to mention this if you didn't. The shooting early in EuroBasket was so funny. It's like, you know what? I'm not worried about him shooting. Like, I'm fine. Right. It doesn't matter.
There's no reason
at all. But no, he's looked great. I have, you can't see my notes, but in my notes, I have it in big red font, passing flashes. So it's been interesting. Like, he's never been a high assist guy necessarily. But the feel is there. Like, and he has, it's not the same as Veit, to be very clear, but he's clearly the best guy on the team. They play through him a lot. It's a better roster than what Veit's dealing with. But also Porzingis has been doing this for a long time. Like, he's been not the best player necessarily a lot, but like a top 2 player on his team a lot. He's used to doing this and he's comfortable with it. The free throw drawing has been notable to me because it's not super easy to get to the line all the time in these kind of format. Like, it's different officiating, but he has a documented record of getting to the line a lot. Like, one thing the Hawks haven't had really for a while is a non-Trey guy getting to the line a lot on their roster.
Did you know he'll be the first guy that Trey's played with that's in the top 50 in free throw attempts per game since John Collins in 2019?
And even Collins it wasn't in the same way as Porzingis.
Yeah, 100%.
Collins did it with effort a lot of times. Like, Collins was and I love that about him, but like, he was not a guy getting the attention that Porzingis commands. And Porzingis is also I had Noah Dalzell on the pod. She kept laughing about it. Like, he has this sweep move that drives everybody crazy because he's 7'3", and you're bringing the ball down, but he does it in a way that he's just going up there. Like, he's a veteran foul drawer in Trey's image. It's funny. Like, they have some similarities despite being more than a foot in difference in size. But no, I'm looking forward to that. He's shooting, I think, like 75% on twos in the tournament. Like, he's been ridiculously efficient, getting to the line 7.5 times a game. This is a different question, but because I'm thinking about it now. Have you thought about the best way to utilize his shot creation to help maybe the non-Trey? Like, where do you stand on the pair him with Trey or separate him from Trey question that
Mm-hmm.
I actually had not thought about this a ton. And then I did Nate Duncan's preview podcast and he asked me about that. And I was like, working it out on the air right then live. And I was like, you know what, this would work. Then I was like, oh, this might work too. And because you talked about his self-created 2-point shooting, I'm sure people are thinking, oh, well, that might be a great way for the Hawks to kind of raise the floor offensively when Trey's off the court. But also there's people dreaming, and this includes me, honestly, of what a elite passing point guard might do for Porzingis and what Porzingis' spacing might do for Trey. So, like, where do you fall on that? Like, I'm sure you thought about this. How would you kind of structure that in at least early on going into the season?
Yeah, it's an important question, and it's something that I think that his minutes in Boston are like kind of hard to parse out. Like, okay, how effective is he creating without Tatum or Brown? Because like he pretty much always played with at least one of them. I think what it'll look like in Atlanta is I don't think that they want to change their style without Trey. So like when Trey was off the floor, it was pretty much we're bad in the half court. We're going to run as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a viable strategy, right? Until you get to the playoffs, and then it's harder to run, and then you need someone to slow it down, and you need to be able to execute half court offense unless you're the Thunder. But then when you think about the way that KP can bend defenses in the post, I think that what we'll hopefully see and what I think they'll lean into is more of a leading on KP as a hub and just having guys being active around him. And I think the moves for Nikhil and Luke and guys like that make a lot of sense if you're going to be playing through KP with Trey on the bench, because those guys are super additive offensive players. Zach as well. I mean, we talked about him too. Like Zach for Latvia would probably make them a top 2 team in the group. Like that's how much of a difference the movement and the physicality and the athleticism around KP would make them. Like when KP's throwing backdoor passes, he's throwing them to Davis Bertans. And like with all due respect, he's not finishing through contact above the rim. And so like that leads to those little misses where KP doesn't get credit for an assist, even though he generated the advantage. And so I think that when it comes to whether you split Trey or KP, I think that KP can do a lot for Trey's game in a way that they have to explore. If we think about minute splits, I feel like if you're playing KP 24 or 28 minutes a night, I probably want 60, 70% of those minutes with Trey. And then maybe you can steal 10 to 12 minutes a night where it's just KP on the floor without Trey. And I think that would be a pretty equitable split, because you're not going to also I don't think anyone on the Hawks has thrown a post entry pass in like years. So like that would be something I have to get in camp, but just getting him the ball and then cutting around him will be good offense, because he is that much of a threat as opposed to, like you mentioned, the foul drawing. He has the top 3 seasons in player tracking era and like foul percentage drawn on post up. So, I mean, if there's nothing happening, he'll just force a double, get to the free throw line, and he's a 90% free throw shooter. So, there's a lot of things they can do. I think they'll play through him a lot when Trey's off the floor as a post hub, out of delay, at the nail, all around the court.
This is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is almost here. FanDuel's making sure you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, if you're a new customer, you can bet for just $5. And if your first bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. FanDuel is great because if it's however you like to bet, they have it for you at FanDuel Sportsbook, whether it's player props, same-game parlays, straight bets, futures, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's all there for you at FanDuel. And also, make every game more exciting at FanDuel, whether you're watching your favorite teams or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineups, no matter what they have. It comes to every single sport as well, all the way across the board, from the NFL, college football, the NBA, of course, baseball, hockey, golf, tennis, soccer, auto racing. They have boxing, MMA, and so much more. FanDuel is quick. It's easier. They're also fast to pay out when you win, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So the question is, are you ready to play at FanDuel Sportsbook? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. Put your first $5 bet and get $300 in bonus bets. Check it out today at FanDuel.com. It's so funny because early in his career, he was a pretty bad efficiency guy inside the arc. Like he would shoot like mid to high 40s on twos, and he would drive everybody crazy because it's like, how's a 7'3" guy this inefficient inside the arc? And then he got to Dallas and it got better, and he got to Washington and it got better, and then he got to Boston. And one thing I would say is Boston's situation, their spacing has been so good in the last 2 years that it's not quite apples to apples. Like 2 years ago, he shot 61% on twos. That's probably not happening again. I think last year it was like 54%. That seems more reasonable to me. in Atlanta, but he does have the ability to, and also his again, not to go back to the comfort level, but the comfort level to be, all right, KP, you're the number one option when Trey's on the bench. Like, they haven't had a guy that's been like comfortable doing that other than the DeJounte years. Like, Jalen was tasked with that a little bit last year, and then he went down, but it wasn't his best role. Maybe it'll be his best role in a little bit, but it wasn't there yet. Dyson did a little bit too, but Porzingis is a proven entity as an offensive force, and it's something they haven't had. Other than DeJounte, that was just very different. So, no, I was just wanted to ask you that because it was itching. But no, before we move on, because I want to ask you defense, and I promise we'll get to Nikhil. Defensively, you mentioned he's not a stiff. Like, he's not. He's not a terrible athlete, but he's not the best mover in the world. And you mentioned also they played really fast without Trey. They played really fast in general. They want to run. Quinn is not afraid to say that. He says it all the time. Those two things do not strike me as Porzingis things. And I wonder, not that he can't do it. Boston did play pretty fast too. Like, they're not afraid to run and gun a little bit. Lots of trail threes and like things like that. But I wonder how you think he'll handle the pace, and also defensively how you structure things, because you have two centers who I've been saying all summer long. You have two starting centers. It's a great thing to have. They're also incredibly different. So, like, how would you be thinking about how they should structure the defensive side of the floor too? Because you have Trey, you have a bunch of wings, and then you have two different centers, and it's a kind of an interesting mix and match game for Quinn and the staff.
Yeah, I feel like when I think about KP, I had those same thoughts where I was like, okay, what does this look like in transition? And what's interesting is, like, when you look at his numbers when he's on the floor, like, you see a massive boost in rim accuracy. Like, even in Boston, I mean, his teams as a whole, like, when he's on the floor, his on-off swings are crazy. When he's on the floor, Boston the last couple of years, he's like plus 6% rim accuracy, and he's also boosting their frequency a little bit, but also he boosts the 3-point attempt frequency, whatever it may be. So I think in transition, he's doing a really good job. He's always done this though, but like sealing in transition. And so, especially when he gets pulled into a switch, he contests a shot. He's just running, and he's putting the guard on the basket and forcing a foul or getting 2 points. So that's one way. But then also just trailing. So if he clears the glass and then now he's trailing, like, it forces the defense to step up. And then now you get cutters behind the defense because they have to step up and guard KP. So it may not be the same speed, but like the one thing that the Hawks didn't have last year was like actual like transition scoring effectiveness. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I want to say like we were, like we ran a lot, but we weren't scoring a ton. I want to say we were like maybe middle of the league in transition effectiveness in terms of points.
Yeah, I actually have it right here. Cleaning the glass version, they were number 1 in frequency, number 1, and they were number 22 in points per play. Yeah,
that definitely sounds about right. And so those, and then now the thing about KP is like everyone sort of just clicks together like these puzzle pieces, right? So it's like, if KP is going to go seal, if he's going to go trail, and those both draw defensive attention, now it's Zach sneaking behind. Now it's Dyson, and now Trey can throw these lead passes to guys because KP has to be accounted for, whereas Clint Capella isn't a threat until he's 2 feet within the basket. And so I think the dynamics of the transition offense will be a little bit different. They may not run as much. I'm expecting them to be more efficient, which should help them in the long run, because like I still have to calculate the exact numbers, but Dyson himself was adding probably 6-ish points per game just off his steals because of how he can translate, how he takes away from the half court offense from the team they're playing, and then how they're able to get into a transition opportunity. And so the more you can turn those transition opportunities into the golden tickets that they're supposed to be offensively, then it's like you can afford to lose a little bit of volume. So I don't think we'll see as big of a drastic change. I think they'll still want to get out and run, and I think KP is capable of that. I think it'll be more so like you may see ebbs and flows throughout the game, you know, and it would be cool to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, they were number 2 in the league in steals, and obviously Dyson is a big part of that, but they did average 9.7 steals per game. Only, quote unquote, only 3 of those are Dyson. So it's not only him. Like they do create other, and adding Nikhil, who we'll talk about in a second, he's a guy who can create a steal and a half per game. Like Jalen's a guy who can add a steal and a half per game. Like they have guys who can push the pace, and that was obviously, it has been since Quint got here. Like we want to play faster and fast generally, and that I think he can fit into that. It's good context for Porzingis because look, I'm looking broadly, and we'll move on to Nikhil. I'm just looking forward to watching how this works. He is the kind of player they have not had at any point in this era of Hawks basketball. Now, granted, there are only a few guys like him anyway, so it's not like most teams don't have anybody like him. But they've had nobody that does what he can do. They had high level center play with Clint. That fell off, but they had nobody. The shooting element, the size element, the rim protection element, the to our discussion earlier, the inside the arc scoring element, all combined into one. Knock on wood, if he can stay on the court for even 60 games, like it's just a different dynamic. I mean, I think, in fact, this week, as we're recording this, Locked On's rolling out their player rankings. I have seen his ranking. I will not spoil it on this podcast. He's an impossible player to rank because it's like, if he's playing,
right, he
should be higher on every list that I've seen him on so far this summer. Right. But it's also like he gets knocked down because he hasn't been able to play. And I get it. But full circle on the EuroBasket thing, he looks healthy. He is talking like he's feeling healthy. That's all you can ask for. I mean, you don't want to. Hopefully, he's not playing so much that he gets fatigued in EuroBasket. Like I had a Hawks fan ask me the other day, should we root for Latvia to lose so that he's not still playing? And I was like, that's not unreasonable. Like, I understand why you would say that. I'm not saying that's what I would think. All I would say is please don't play him a bazillion minutes on like back-to-backs and stuff while he's been there. And he's playing like 20 something minutes. Yeah. 28 minutes a game. I'm fine with that. Don't go crazy. But I've been encouraged. I feel good about it. I feel good about the whole time. But I think now that I've seen him with my eyes playing basketball the last few weeks, and he looks like Porzingis,
helps a lot.
It's like, oh, okay. I'm excited about that. All right, that is all for this episode with myself and David Lee. Stay tuned later on this week. I'll be joined with David again to discuss the Alexander Walker, Luke Kennard, and Folly Dante, Caleb Houston, and more. Please subscribe to Locked On Hawks anywhere you get your podcasts. That includes Apple and Spotify. We're also on YouTube. So once again, please like this video as you're watching it. And before you sign off on the podcast, leave your comments below as well. Follow the show on Twitter/X at Locked On Hawks. Follow me there if you want to at BT Rowland. I'm also on Blue Sky at BT Rowland, and my non-podcast coverage of the Hawks can be found at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right, everybody, stay tuned for more coming on later on this week, and we'll see you all next time.